We have seen her run a lot of errands, a lot of work, get a lot of big things done for the festival from being behind the curtains, from being behind the scenes. We're very happy to welcome her and give her the due credit that she deserves and have her up front on the stage today. Nimra, can we please have you?
I would like to call upon Shilpa and Adithya. Shilpa, uh, before they come up or while they come up, I'll also very quickly introduce them. Uh, Shilpa Mudbi is an Indian researcher, singer, performer, theatre artist, actress, and documentary filmmaker. She is currently working on preserving and archiving diverse folk art forms in Karnataka. Currently living in Kalburgi, she graduated in media arts and production from Sydney in Australia. Shilpa has been in the field of social justice as a social justice activist and media consultant with NGOs working on youth, women, and child rights. She has been a Karnataka Janapada Folk Academy member for 3 years between 2019 to 2022. She is currently on the Academic Advisory Committee of the IGNCA in Bangalore. Adithya is a third generation Bangalorean currently living in Kalaburgi. He is an accounting professional and graduated with a CPA and master's in accounting from Sydney. His previous work experience, spanning almost a decade, was in the finance and tech space. While he mainly focuses on the operational activities of the Urban Folk Project, he moonlights as a co performer with Shilpa. They have shared a passion for travel and the arts. In May 2017, they made their first trip in May 2017, they made their first trip around Karnataka to locate and document folk forms for those regions. The uniqueness of this project has drawn them to join and assist with the administrative and organizational aspects of the Urban Folk Project. Thank you, Shilpa and Aditya. I would like to start this off by having you tell us more about the project, both of you. So we'll start with Shilpa.
Sure. Thank you, Nimra. I feel like that bio needs a little bit of an updation. We don't preserve. We actually came to the conclusion about 4 years back that we can't preserve anything. None of us can preserve anything. We can only add to continuity and passing it on to the next generation. So though we started this journey being very naive, we've learned some lessons in interesting ways. We'll probably tell you a few stories, but maybe Adi should begin, how we started. I am a theatre practitioner. I have about 16 years of theatre practice that I have worked with theatre groups in Bombay, Karnataka, and Pondicherry. And Adi was an accountant, so our marriage was pretty much on the brinks. And then Urban Folk Project happened to us.
Yeah, so we did separate for a while and living in different cities. I think we finally decided we'll come together and try doing something, something that would bring us both back together. And I loved to drive, loved to travel. So we decided we'll just take the car and just drive around Karnataka. And Shilpa, outside Bangalore, of course. We did not want to get stuck in the traffic. And Shilpa, having just finished her stint with a theatre in Pondicherry, came back with certain questions about this goddess Yellama, which she had kind of devised into a play that she was working on. And that kind of drove, in a way, where we went, right? So we went searching for these different narratives, searching for different practitioners. And it started off 2017, right? Around then we started traveling. And of course, there was this goddess Yellama in the background somewhere in our minds, but we were also looking at what Karnataka had to offer in terms of folk, and we were listening to a lot of folk, hearing about a lot of folk, but no one knew what these forms were. So we started, searching for academicians, practitioners, and at some point we stumbled across this information that Karnataka has more than 250 folk forms. So we were like, okay, let's at least try and list these 250 folk forms. So that was our initial idea when we started. And of course, along the way, driving, seeing these different places, experiencing new cuisines, and it was just, I think it saved our marriage. Yeah, it did in a lot of ways. And yeah, I mean, it started like that. We were very naive, like Shilpa was saying earlier. We would ask questions like, where is this originally from, and what is the original story, and who does it belong to, and all these questions. And then as we started encountering a lot of oral tradition, we realized every household there was a different story, even though they were just like neighbors, and they had the same practices. There was a slightly something that they had inserted into the story that made it their own. And it was a very, the experience was just so revealing. Like we had all our questions were kind of shattered. All the different thought processes that we had kind of tried to build in that, start with in that process, like they were all, we had no clue what we wanted to do, right? We were at that beginning point, we were like, okay, let's do this, let's do that, let's start this one platform to bring all these folk artists together and showcase them. And it was all very, very naive ideas. And yeah, and we just kept traveling, kept finding different artists who were so generous, who were, you know, took us in like we were family in a lot of ways, and shared their experiences, shared their stories, shared their art forms. And we met, yeah, of course, and in this process, we met a bunch of transgender artists in Bellary, who we now, like, we are very proud to call family. They really took us under their wing, and guided us in a lot of ways on how to navigate this space. Yeah, Shilpa, I think you should also add.
Yeah, so the Jogati is just to kind of explain what that is. Renuka Yalama, if some of you all know the myth of Parashurama, Renuka Yalama is the mother of Parashurama. And for a lot of the Dalit Bahujan communities in north of Karnataka, west of Andhra, and south of Maharashtra have these goddesses, Renuka Yalama, Matangi, Dittargi Bhagamma. These are all female goddesses that we over time realized were pre-Vedic, what you would call tantric, but I don't know if we can really rigidly box them into as tantric goddesses. But what we noticed is there was a community of people who busked in these goddesses' names. So the Jogatis are trans women, Jogammas are heteronormative women, and Jogappas are either cross-dressers or men who busk and sing the songs of these goddesses. So when we met them, that's when we hit kind of the core of our research kind of started blooming from there. What I had done in a little bit about my background is I'm a Dalit Bahujan person who's highly disenfranchised, grew up in Bangalore. I know I've said the Our Father for 10 years of my life, so I know Jesus better than our own, Gram Devta or Mani Devru.
House deities, yeah.
House deities, like personal deities. So over time, for me, it was about reconnecting with my own caste and community identity, trying to figure out where our goddesses came from and what they were trying to say, what their stories were. So through this journey that Adi and I made, and Adi is from a different community, so he didn't have the same questions, but luckily I had a very supportive partner in him who said, I love to drive, you tell me where to go, so let's turn up there and ask the right stories. Thank you.
I also I was behind the camera.
Yeah. So he's the one who started documenting actually. But when we met this family of transgender artists, that's where we started hearing the myth and how it was being tweaked by every community and why it was being tweaked by every community. She's not a Lakshmi Saraswati, which means her story is not written down, and it's not something that is it's not a mainstream myth. So every 10 kilometers, we saw massive changes. And within the 10 kilometers, each community had tweaked and put in their own community identities, histories, traumas, resistance into the story. So when we've...
Sometimes even like geographical calamities that
exactly
happen.
Droughts
and
rain. So what we started to see is that a folk tale is like a massive sandwich, right? There are so many timelines and it's all compressed. You can't really tell which part of the folk tale is 2000 years old and which is 5 years old. COVID also has entered the Renuka myth. After COVID, there was Renuka cures COVID in certain versions. So you can see that the myth is living and breathing. It's constantly changing and it's changed by people. So people move the myth. That's what's most powerful and struck us, that we couldn't look for the original myth anymore. That each story was an original and each story was authentic. And when I realized that trans women had their own versions, that's when I realized maybe there is a Madiga version, which is from my community, where leather treaters. So leather must be in there. There must be some sort of understanding of untouchability in there, of our own resistances and our own our Adil Shahi Nizami history in there, which was so fascinating because you can't digress away from what has happened necessarily when you're actually looking at the myth. The myth probably runs linear, but there's so many parallels that are piled up on each other that slowly these layers started to kind of come apart and make sense, which was every day was Christmas. We're opening presents, as in when someone told us a story, and who was telling us the story kind of mattered more than what the story was, because both of them were kind of related. So for us, the project has been, Adi and I decided we will start collecting these stories, documenting them, interviewing each person and getting the stories. And one of these teachers showed us the instruments that they use. It's called the Shruti and the Chaudki. They're busking instruments. They're also untouchable instruments in our region because people won't touch it. But on a good day, I mean, on a festival day, they will put 10 rupees in it and get a song customized in their name. They'll put their kids' names in it and things like that. So that's the ritual. If you go outside a Renuka Yalama temple, you will see women with beautifully dreadlocked hair, mostly aged. You don't see.
Not so beautifully, actually.
I love it. I love it. That's what the NGOs are doing. They're shaving hair. So
I'm saying, like, it's just one big clump of.
yeah, it's a big clump, but it's not like carrot ben, not like Nityananda. Okay. They're not neat dreads, they're lived dreads. And so these women sit there with like little baskets and a small image of the Devi. And say you go there and you give her 10 rupees and she'll say, what's your name? She'll say, Nimra, what's your father's name, mother's name, what are your children's names? And then she will sing a song which includes you and your kids into the song. And that is your blessing. That's the musical blessing. And we found this fascinating. We wanted to learn these instruments. And we went to certain teachers. Some of them were like, you cannot touch it because it's untouchable. Me and my instrument are not touchable by you. So you stay away from it. And
others, and others would say you have to be initiated
yeah.
into being able to even play these instruments.
You have to be a Devadasi, or you have to be a Jogama. You have to be a cross-dresser to be able to play these instruments.
Or plain simple disciple of the goddess. Right?
Yeah.
You have to be initiated into the whole system.
And there is a particular process. I mean, of course, there's a ritual for that. And we were a little confused because we're part atheist, part socialist. Our understanding of God is skewed by politics, and we didn't know how to receive this. But soon, when we met a particular family, a family of Jogatis in Bellary, they took to teaching us, and probably it was because they were poor and they wanted the money. You know, probably it didn't strike us that this was privilege that was giving us access to something that we shouldn't have access to, but we got access. But there was this one teacher, and she's one of the most well-known Chaudki players in Karnataka. When we went to her house, second or third time, I think, she got upset because we put a picture of her and the Chaudki on our Instagram page because we were so proud we had met someone so amazing. We made a post and we put it up. And her relatives who had seen her post went and told her, and she got upset because she hadn't combed her hair and we hadn't asked her.
She wasn't dressed up. Normally when they perform, they're in costume.
Yeah, They're like,
so she wasn't in costume.
She
She was in
wasn't.
her house outfit.
and so we turned up at her house, and she was not happy. Like the first two times we got chai and like, how are you? And a rub on the back, and she was so cold. And I kept wondering something. We've messed up. We've messed up. I don't know what we've messed up with, but we've messed up. And so when I came to finally asking what happened, she said, you know, why did you do this? You could have asked me. You shouldn't have put my picture or video there. Like, and then I was so flummoxed, Nimra. I just basically said something on the lines of, no, we must preserve this. This is for posterity. How is it going to travel? She stopped me. She said, you or I are not bigger than the art form. You don't need to save it. And if you really care at all, you should embody it and learn how to embody it. And when I asked her what that takes is, she said, come live with me, get up at 4 in the morning, take a cold shower, go to the temple, do your puja, come back here and I'll teach you. It really hit hard. She really kicked our savior syndrome out of the window. And it kind of left us in a space where we were like, we are not really sure why we are documenting this.
So actually, why we were documenting in the first place is because we thought we will create this
Create an archive. Yeah.
And we wanted this massive archive. So
Yeah.
No, I was just coming to the archiving, but before that, I'm just very fascinated by the use of this word folk.
Yeah.
What is this folk, and how have you people been thinking about the folk? I think that is one question.
Yeah.
And from there, I would like you to talk about the connection between archiving and history and the folk.
So this is a more recent revelation for me, but today I'm of the understanding that everything that we've called folk has an upper caste gaze on it. It's basically Dalit art forms, but people don't want to say Dalit, so they say folk. Everything that is non-Savarna practice, tribal, Dalit, mostly Bahujan, is called folk today. And the way it's being used, when you say folk, which folk are we referencing to is just so dubious. We don't want to say which folk. We are all folk. So my grandmother's folk song is clubbed with an Assamese folk song. They're both folk. This woman hasn't heard her song. She won't understand this one. That it's so separate and so different. There's so much diversity within it. The greatest injustice to all these art forms has been to label it folk. So that's, I think, one of the first things that made us change trajectory drastically and leave Bangalore and kind of move towards the folk, because the Urban Folk Project, when we founded it, was about urban audiences. And slowly that withered away, and we were made to realize that the folk is what we have to focus on, and the people who we were covering under Urban Folk Project were the artists and not so much the audience. It can't be audience-centered. It has to be artist and community-centered. And as far as archiving goes, there's another story. So one of our teachers who did accept to teach us was a transgender artist. Her name is Ramaka. She's our elder sister. She's also christened our child. So she's like the closest thing we have to a priest in our house. So she and I kind of sat like this one day at a workshop. We've organized several workshops for the Jogatis so that they can meet other trans people in Karnataka who they want to pass on the art form to. We asked these practitioners, who do you want to have as students to pick up these instruments and these cultural properties to take forward? And when we started doing that, just as just like a fun time at the workshop, I think Ramaka and I sat down and did a song, and that went viral on YouTube. And a few years later...
In fact, I took that video
Yeah.
of Shilpa singing with Ramaka, and we put it up on our Facebook channel. And it was also we didn't put it up immediately after the workshop happened. We put it up later on, saying that
3-4 months.
we are going to be teaching this song. So actually, there's too much context.
No, that's what
Okay,
I'm summarizing.
Okay.
I'm quickening. So The song, say we recorded it now, it went up in 3 months. In a year, it landed up in a Kannada film. The song goes, Adiba magane Rama noduve kannina thumba. Where the mother is singing to Parashurama and saying, come play in front of my eyes, Rama, I don't want you to go very far. So it's a mother singing to a toddler saying, Gum mat ho jao, like bahut bheed hai type. In the film, there is a man with an AK-47, like lighting up an entire basti. And it's playing in the background. Adiba magane bhima. And Ramaka saw this song and she picked up the phone. And when the song went viral, firstly, she loved it. Because wherever she went for busking, she would get from 50 rupees, her price had gone up to 100 rupees a song. And they would ask for that particular song and they'd be like, we know you from that video. And she'd call and she'd say, this kid in the bus stop recognized me. This lady, Big Gaudati, she called me and she gave me saris. So she loved that fame. And I kept thinking, we've messed up somewhere. Something's going to go wrong now. And in a year, when it went into the film, I was like, that is what could have happened. And Ramaka called and said, I need the money. She said, I need to get money because he took our song and put it into that film. We called the producers and they said, if you think it was such a great song, you should have copywritten it. And that's when it started to hit me. There's no protection for folk music. And when you look at how what I'm doing as an artist, or when Adi and I sing that song is a part of telling the story and talking about the Jogatis, we get paid anywhere above 30,000 and she gets to sing the same song on the street, 500 and probably 5,000 if she did it on stage. And what these guys are doing are earning twice as much. And if it was a Sanjay Leela Bansali, 100 times much. So how do we understand equity in this field was starting to bother us. And then I realized, what are archives doing? How can they put so many artists out there like a just dial, You're just seeing songs that are not from your community. And soon, this whole slew of Savarna women are out there with their classical voices and their tamburas playing those songs. That's when it hit us, Nimra. Like we had to stop and kind of look at how do we look at Ramaka understanding collective ownership to begin with. Because I had to break it down to her saying, Ramaka, we can't get you money. It's not your song. And it broke her heart. I had to tell Ramaka, what we're going to do is we have to geotag this song. We spoke to a couple of lawyers. They said, you have to prove that this song belongs geographically and locally to these women. You have to prove that in court, which is going to be bloody hard. And after that point, you have to drag this guy into the court and make him, accountable for the music. And he's going to say, I took 1, 2, 3 chords and not the 5th and 6th, so you can't really prove it. I mean, he can really upturn this whole thing. And for Ramaka, the thing was, why should I take these women and share the money with them? So it's complicated. I don't think we've answered any questions. But for me, it's become more important to understand how do we look at protection around folk music? And how do we establish that? How do we understand collective ownership and pen it down? Because if we can do it for folk medicine, we should be able to do for folk music. And maybe the next generation will finally decide to say, folk is like a bastardized word, we need to find another word. But I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. And Adi, at least for a fact, after a point when he realized he's an upper caste man and he's actually also playing the music, he's heavily dependent on the blessings of Ramaka and Radhabai and these artists to say, okay, go ahead, play. And talk about us and take our stories outside. And that made us realize if we have to do anything with folk music or cultural properties of minority communities, we have to adopt them and they have to adopt us. They have to fall in love with us as much as we fall in love with them. Yeah.
No, please.
And I think so far what I understand is we can understand what Ramaka's needs are. When she said, I have cataract, we raised funds for it. When her sister's house broke down during COVID, we raised money to put the roof. And now Ramaka has cholesterol. She doesn't want to walk too far to take a shit. We're trying to get a bathroom next to her house. And that I can do. But when I take from an entire community where they're all nameless and I've named them folk and put it into a film and like done dandiya and called it Goomer and made a lot of money, then how how do we give back our, is there any conscience, is there any conscientious way to do this is really troublesome actually. So Urban Folk Project has become like a it's a box of questions. We just basically turn up and ask the questions and see if people are able to ask. Because I think audience needs to ask this question. When you see a Savarna male director who goes out there and brings cultural properties of a minority community and says, because I did this, I'm a feminist. Because I did this, I'm secular. No, I'm sorry, you're just using this. Is something that the audience needs to get up and say.
I'm going to take you back to archiving. Okay. And if you can just run us by the process of how exactly does non-literal archiving look like? Because for the festival, we've been documenting oral histories, and for us, the most productive thing or the instinct was always to kind of document these oral histories in text. But when we are working with performing arts, what does archiving look like? If you could just run us by that process.
We've seen some very dense archives. Karnataka is full of archives, actually. There's no dearth of them. I'll give you an example of one archive that I cannot name for good reason.
It's in North Karnataka. I mean, coastal Karnataka.
Yeah, it's a coastal Karnataka. And the coastal Karnataka, if you want to know a little bit about the politics, I mean, that's where your Kasargod is. It's fairly saffron, and they're very, fundamental politics are there, kind of hardcore. So there are people, privileged classes, who have documented hours and hours of tribal. Some of y'all must have seen Kantara, right? Yeah, it's those kind of tribal folk spirit god practices. And they're easily 180 to 100 years old, like the documentation itself
No.
Footage
Footage is from the 70s.
Huh.
I think from the 70s onwards,
the 70s onwards.
They document, but they have thousands and thousands of hours.
So if you went into one of these archives, let's look at how you can access it, right? So there is a long form, you write where you're coming from, why you want to see it, and then for each hour, and you get like this massive menu card that runs a few pages that won't make any sense to you because, well, we don't know that landscape. It'll say this community, this community, this community, these many hours, this ritual. And for each hour, you pay 2,000 rupees. You can sit there for days figuring out what you want to watch to begin with. And it's not free. And there is no writing anywhere in those archives which says who are the people in the archive. It's just largely labels them as a community and a certain ritual. And we found who was running the archive was from minority communities. So in our heads, firstly, archives looked extremely dead. We visited 4 archives around Karnataka. Never did we actually see anybody else sitting there and watching the archives to begin with. They were practically dead. And the other thing was that the ones who were putting everything online were claiming that they were disseminating, this kind of information for posterity, to spread what's happening, to build diversity and secular ideas, all of this fancy as language. But there was no real connection between the people who were running the archives and the community that was being shown in the archives. Except for G.N. Devi's archive. It's a tribal archive in Ahmedabad. So what he's done is he's found a tribal community. He's basically Adivasi community. He's built a house which is very much built by the community themselves, given them full rights to curate it as they like. So it's not a dead place. It's also a school. It's also like a guest house for people to come and stay there. And a chakki is not like a dead chakki.
Space. Yeah, you can come and actually experience the whole process.
Yeah, you can experience it. Like, a lot of our museums have this is a grinding stone, but it doesn't grind anything and it hasn't ground anything for ages. It's just like there is a pictorial representation, a 3D pictorial representation. But in an actual, like a G.N. Devi's archive, we saw that you could actually go and not just turn it around and say that, oh, this moves this way, but you have women sitting there helping you do the act of labor with them. And when they sing, you really feel that it has entered you through the work. And it was amazing because it was being curated by them. And for me, every session with Ramaka is like that. She is that living archive. Every grandmother that we have picked up songs from are living archives. And for us to be able to take it from them is engaging with them, having them fall in love with us as much as we are falling in love with them. And sometimes love doesn't happen, you just have to accept it.
I also want to add something to that. I think what we also started to observe, because we were driving to all these places in our fancy car, taking
And
out
our Crocs with
yeah,
all our funky buttons.
taking out our fancy small GoPro cameras and these audio recorders and all of that, just created like one sense of power, I would say, over a lot of
We
these
didn't
artists. So it was
realize
all of these things were another character itself in this whole narrative, and it was creating a filter of sorts when even trying to document what was, happening in all of these folk artists' lives. So yeah, I mean, at some point we decided we shouldn't be recording anything.
No, I mean,
right?
that hit us also because when we went to a Madiga person's home, I mean, this person is from my community. And I'm trying to convince them that I am from your community. And they're like, no. You speak English. Look at your
You
shoes.
can drive a
You
car.
can drive a car. You're not a Dalit person. You're not Dalit enough for us. That's when I realized it's a very complex breakdown of class, caste, gender. And to sit in someone's home and impose yourself with a privilege first means to, for us, it meant that we needed to address our own privilege. I think that's where we came back to. We needed to know what about what we were doing came from a place of power and break it down systematically. So now we have like all our cameras, cables, and a whole lot of it just stashed up. We haven't touched it in 3 years.
Collecting dust.
Yeah, just collecting dust. Please feel free to rent it out. But I think our practice is so much more lived because we didn't have gods and things in our life. So now Ramaka comes for any particular festival. She comes home, she tells us what to do. We probably don't relate to it as much as her, but being able to do the ritual with her, for her attests us as people who want to invest in it. And we even tell her, like I've tried to politicize a lot of rituals. Sometimes, like just like this, we were sitting at a conference, Ramaka and myself, and she was telling the story and I was breaking it down in my own way. And she was saying something serious, and the way I broke it down, people laughed, and she immediately stopped me and she's like, I'm saying it seriously and you're making people laugh. And we had a full-blown fight in front of people, and I was agitated, but I was also very happy it was happening in front of people. That there is a place for this dialogue. That something I can do can irk her and she can stop me. It's not a place of privilege where she's like, but that is Shilpa, like Shilpa needs to do what Shilpa needs to do. She has to assert herself and she needs to, and I'm glad she can, that she's my teacher and she's my elder sister. And if she can say, shut up, I don't think you're right. And it was good to see how people took to it. They didn't know how, like our audience was little, like what is happening? These two women are fighting in a language we don't understand.
Still dwelling on archives. As archivists, as historians, I think we are also always engaged in an act of elimination as we are of production. Have you people reflected on what that elimination is from your practice? And the other thing that I wanted to ask you is that as archivists and as, again, historians, I suppose, you are also interpreting your archives for your audience. So what is the interpretation? Do you engage in that act? Do you dissociate from it? How do you work with it?
Nimra, we are actually short of becoming archivists. I think we were on that process, but humne chhod diya. We don't want to do this. We actually want Ramaka and probably someday Radhabai also to like, find ways to work with us and tell us what we are doing is wrong and what is right. So the elimination process for me, the biggest elimination process when someone from a privileged space, be it caste, class, gender, takes something that is not from their lived experience and starts practicing it, is the resistance. It's the deep-rooted resistance why this story came about. Like Renuka's story has a lot of killing, castrating. It just has a lot of blood and gore in it, and it doesn't come from like a Quentin Tarantino. I must excite my audience kind of space. It comes from the pain that community has been through, and it's kind of seeped into the myth to make some sense. So when that is being practiced by me, I've there is that elimination which I'm worried about, that we'll end up exoticizing it. And the audience continues to feed into that exoticization. So we had to stop performing it entirely for some time because it hit us that this is the elimination, this is the problem. When she stands on the street barefoot and busks, or her younger jogatis do sex work and are struggling with mental health issues, alcoholism, why, when they sing that song is folk because their voices are singing that song. My voice does not carry that same lived experience, and hence it's not folk.
So,
Whatever we create, or whatever Adi and I create, cannot be folk, can never be folk. It can only be the interpretation. And what we try and do is have Ramaka be a part of that process. She watches every version, she has watched every tweak that I've made, and every time I've politicized the story, she has an opinion about it. Now, not all times do I agree with her opinion. I mean, it's a human relationship, but it's so important to have her a part of that dialogue. And that's as much as we can do, I feel. But be aware of the elimination, because it's rightly put. You cannot assume that you're doing justice to it, 100% for sure.
at that point when we decided, okay, we can't be archivists, we don't want to be archivists because we still hadn't navigated around how to, break away from these problems the questions that we had. We decided we'll take all that we have corrected, we'll go to Bangalore, sit in Cubbon Park, and just at least these songs and stories, just sing it, and sing it to whoever joggers, passers by, people who wanted to come and sit. They could just come and sit and join us. So that's what we did. I mean, we stopped archiving all the information that we had collected.
And the teaching that we got from our Jyotis, we just sat down at the park every day and just we didn't even want to disseminate.
Yeah, no,
we just wanted to practice the instruments because my mother-in-law thought it was too loud for the house. The glass would start shattering and she'd be like, do you have to do this indoors? And so we were like, hi, every morning anyways, we want to go for a jog. We're going to land up with our instruments, finish our jog, sit down and start playing these instruments. And it slowly over time became into like a class. A whole bunch of kids coming.
We did that for 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
No money was ever exchanged for this.
Not a single penny we charged.
We just
because also when we collected all of these stories and songs, we didn't have to pay anyone anything, right? But we would sit there and slowly we started getting a lot of traction. I mean, we started with one dog coming and listening to us, to 100 people at some point joining us, and we had a document that we had created on Google Drive, on Google Docs, which had the lyrics of all these songs, and we didn't write it in any local. We wrote it in English, and we just, because not all people speak the local language. So we still have this document, right? I mean, in Google Docs. So it's got all the lyrics. So anyone who would come and join us, we would just share the lyrics, and Shilpa is a great singer. If y'all are all here tomorrow, y'all can maybe hear her sing. So when she would sing, people would try singing along, not even knowing the language. I mean, for that matter, even I did not know the language when we first started, and now I can speak a little bit. I can understand a little more. But yeah, so we did that for 2 years and decided this is a better way of spreading the information that would possibly be sitting in an archive in some shelf. I mean, this is a live way of you just giving people the information that we have.
Yeah, but I mean, COVID struck and that also seemed like a very bad idea because there were a whole bunch of kids going out and singing this song with wrong lyrics and decontextualizing it to a point of cringe. And then I'm like, we messed up again.
It's all about learning, right?
Messed up again. So it's been a very tiresome journey, like trying to figure out what is right. Empathy and instinct can only get you that far and make you do certain things, but it's so hard to figure out what not to do in this field. And you can only figure out that you're doing wrong if you still stay rooted with the community who's giving to you. And archives are like, हम सब की record करेंगे, सबका document करेंगे, सबका how so much care and concern you'll have, like how did that cover so much? That's the question I'll end up asking. The more dense the archive, I'm like, how many people went and spoke to how many people, and are they still in your lives? And have you adopted them? Do you know if they have cataract? And those are the questions that start coming to my mind. But I don't know. I still don't want to say that we've found a way to work. We've just found a whole bunch of questions that keep bothering us. And we're trying to see if we can find like-minded people who are disturbed by the same phenomena to say, now what? What should we do now? We have one Ramaka, but there are hundreds of Ramakas. Like today, if you ask me, what do I want to do as Urban Folk Project? I know Adi and I went and did a permaculture course. We want to start a forest and we want to just live. We want to find a house where Ramaka walks in and she feels like a queen. And Radhabai feels like, okay, I can make music here. Because every time we have told the folk artists that, look, we're going to do good, they will say, we want shows in Bangalore. But when they land up in Bangalore, they call us from their hotel rooms and say, I don't know how to use the flush. We're displacing these people, constantly giving them the narrative that it's better for you to lock into mainstream. You will get more money if you record with this director. If you find new ways. But I don't know, when communities has short memory, and because we are like birds who have a little bit of objectivity, we're not entirely insiders. I think we have that much more responsibility to be more conscious of what we're doing. And so now I'm at a place where I want to do a density mapping. This one community, we know Ramaka, Kavita, Manjama, we know about 8 of them. We want to know where the rest of them are in Karnataka and what is the state of affairs. Because today you don't need to be queer, you don't need to be a Jogati to be queer. These are old systems where they're matriarchal families, where young boys who did not fit in their bodies came, got initiated, got their castration done, became women in that sense, and joined these families either as daughters, as students, as chelas, there. And in that system, when we came and took a peek into that system, we also landed up disturbing a few things. So now we want to figure out what is the larger state of affairs, or I want to figure out how do we map this community and say, what is the key issue here? We can build Ramaka a bathroom. That's like, I'll ask you 5,000 rupees, I'll ask them 10,000 rupees, and 20,000 rupees, we'll get a good bathroom, like a good toilet for Ramaka. But to figure out what is the main issue within this community. They're ailing. Most of them are aged, all above 60, and they no pensions. Their artwork is being, again, Kannada directors are out there. And this, again, we are at fault. I make no mistake. I don't try and hide away from it. We've popularized this music and opened the doors for more appropriation to happen. And that's why we feel like, oh, damn, now we have to be the gatekeepers. It's not a great place to be, but as long as we're with the community will tell us how to go forward. And knowing one Ramaka is not enough. We need to know 10 Ramakas across the state who we can put together and say, y'all are a federation, now y'all take a call and we will try and figure out what are the systems we need to put in place. So that's where Urban Folk Project is today. Yeah, and we want to be farmers.
All very interesting. I was wondering if we can open the session up for Q&A. So, questions? Is there a mic that is being passed around? Oh, perfect.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm Adithya. The question I have is that if there was a practical way to solve the digital rights issue in a very simple way,
Yeah.
right, would that help?
Yes, it would. And I think it takes a little bit of education, sir. You need a registration. Every performer who puts their work on YouTube needs to have an IPR. And once you get the IPR, like if Ramaka and I had known this, before putting that up online, if we had an IPR and anyone had taken that song, we could have had a copyright strike, we could have taken it down legally.
Okay.
So that's, you know.
No, that's great. Let's talk after this.
We have somebody who's very intently listened to your session, and he had a very simple request.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We are tourists in this area. We would just like, if it's possible, to hear some of, a few lines of the music, of the tribal music, whatever. A few lines.
Sure.
Give us an idea of the tribal music.
I would love for you to listen to the entire story, so I will give you 2 more lines for sure. But tomorrow we're telling Renuka's story, and we have quite a few Jogati songs that we are going to be presenting. This particular song is called Adiba Magane. It goes like this. Adiba Magane Rama Noduve Kannina Thumba ಚಾಡ್ಗಾರ ಬಜಾರದಾಗ ಚಾಡ ಎಳೆರೋ ರಾಮ ಮೋಸಗಾರ ಬಜಾರದಾಗ ಮೋಸ ಮಾಡ್ಯಾರ ರಾಮ ಆಡುತ್ತ ಬಂದು ಹಾಲು ಕುಡಿಯು ಬಾರೋ ಉಣ್ಣು ಬಾರೋ ಆಡಿ ಬಾ ಮಗನೇ ರಾಮ ನೋಡುವೆ ಕಣ್ಣಿನ ತುಂಬ.
You can tell she's forgotten the lyrics. It's because we've stopped singing this song.
We completely stopped singing this song. It has given us so much trauma after Dunya Vijay, Kannada actor, hijacked it. It's just like, so yeah. The whole song, I promise, will be.
Actually, the whole thing is
you
you need to have the musical accompaniments as well. We don't have
It's
our
a little
instruments
hard.
with us at the moment. So
Also, you can see that song that went viral. You just put in Ramaka.
it's
and
called Adi Ba.
Adi Magane. We should
Magane.
probably.
Yeah, if you search for it on YouTube. you'll find it.
The other thing that I'm feeling a little secure in asking you now that you've kind of qualified yourself as gatekeepers is, I see such moving instances of agentic capacities in Jogammas and even Ramaka.
Ramaka.
Yeah. It just fails me that art for me, it's something that can really move and push for change. How has the social justice perspective not really percolated into Bahujan art forms? What has really kept it out? Because here are people who are really ready to stand up for what they believe in, and yet we have kept them at the fringes. Where are we really going wrong?
It's just harsh, you know. I feel it's so unfair. Being from a theatre community in Bangalore, English elite theatre, I've lost a lot of friends once I've had this realization. Because the same women who called, we called each other comrades, and they have learned these songs, gone out and traveled the world with them, not thinking ever how to give back. And they would have paid like 2,000 rupees for a workshop, and they're out earning lakhs and lakhs of rupees and fancy hotel rooms and flights. And when I've tried to get them to address it, they will always turn around and say something as obnoxious as, but Periyar said we should be casteless. It's been deeply disappointing. I feel so isolated. I can't tell you. If I go down that road, I might probably start crying. But it's just heartbreaking sometimes to know that this is just not going down well. I've done one TED talk recently, and I kid you not, the day the TED talk went up online, a whole bunch of shows fell apart. They cancelled. They don't want to hear about caste. They want to hear the exoticized version of Renuka Yalama and sung in my voice. And I'm a playback singer. I know I'm not a bad singer. I can keep singing this and I'll keep entertaining. And like the gentleman asked, there'll be always 2 more lines that will be more exciting to hear rather than this disturbing part of it, that I have stolen, I have appropriated. Now I'm trying to make amends, and it is really visceral. It hurts. And when you see Ramaka hurting, she gives me strength, because if she sits next to me and I sit here, you can tell the class difference between 2 women. And we're both somehow being subject to the same treatment. And why I won't travel as far as these Savarna women is because they have network. I don't. And if they don't want to come to accept that and think of equity and how to have new frameworks in place, you're alone. You can only like do some sloganeering and shut up and sit down.
And this whole idea of casteless, I think we've had a lot of conversations about being casteless, and I think it's the greatest injustice one can do to, the castes that are being oppressed. And saying that I'm casteless is like,
Something I would like to tell this audience the next time you hear a Wargri or a Kabir, please ask their surnames.
Do we have any more questions?
It's okay. You people have traveled a lot. You have people doing fantastic work. Absolutely. The political parties are also into it. They are looking into it. I'm telling you, there are people who are friend of mine. They are working ups and downs on this.
Yeah.
And the awareness is very much there. Very much there.
Sir, I'm scared to say this, but the number of times we have been invited by something Shri something art
No.
of living, it's so scary. Like we knew people are out there trying to hijack the narrative. We know.
Secondly, our own people. Not from the outer community of the people.
Yeah.
Your people, my people, within those people, they are trying to sabotage your work and they are not trying to take you to the level where you deserve.
Yeah.
I would personally recommend keep on the fights. Things are on. Things are definitely going to happen for you. And one thing more, one recommendation, or rather I'll urge you to create something, work on the retention and insulation of that. Insulation is very much required. No bugger should come and take your good work. And above all, somebody is there who's seeing you. Nobody can stop you from where you want to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.